A handful of Cheez-its is about 20 carbs. You know what to do. But I have small hands. That voice in my head was right. Sneaking Cheez-its off my kids' plate will keep me from my goals because I usually can't have just one. Instead, I'm making my own Cheez-its, and these are only 1 gram of carb per serving. Oh, and we're not gonna cut up squares of cheese and bake it and call it Cheez-its because that doesn't look or taste like Cheez-its. Instead, we start by adding 100 milligrams of almond flour to a medium bowl. And if you don't have a food scale, just add 1/2 cup plus 1/3 cup of almond flour. A key ingredient to holding your crackers together when you're preparing your dough is to add 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum, then 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and we're gonna add some cheese to these crackers in a bit, obviously, but I found that it wasn't cheddary enough for me to give that true Cheez-it flavor, so I'm adding 4 teaspoons of this cheddar powder I picked up from Amazon. This is an optional ingredient. The crackers turn out just fine without it. Cheez-its are made with real cheese. Well, so are my keto Cheez-its. I have 4 ounces of extra sharp cheddar cheese that I've shredded. Any flavor of cheddar will work. I've used medium cheddar, but I find that the sharper the cheddar, the more flavor it has. To hold it all together, all you need is water, just 3 tablespoons. If you didn't use that cheese powder and you want a vibrant orange color to your Cheez-its, just add a few drops of food coloring. However, I do suggest you add the food coloring to the water so that it gets distributed evenly into your dough. Now, this might seem like it's not enough water to incorporate your dough together, but trust me, it is. Just keep stirring, or you might have to get your hands dirty and knead it together to get all of those dry ingredients to come together into the dough. Don't worry about the shreds of cheese. This will get pressed into the dough when we prepare the crackers. They serve an important role that I'll explain later. To get flat crackers, we need to roll out the dough between 2 sheets of parchment paper. To keep the parchment paper from slipping, just lay down a damp piece of paper towel first and then place your parchment on top. Ideally, you want to roll out your dough into a rectangle shape so that it's easy to cut your crackers into square shapes. So I'm going to try to mold it into a square shape first, and when I roll it, I repeatedly check to make sure the corners are square. To prevent the parchment paper from creating lines in the dough, I just periodically flip the parchment over and then roll out that underside. Keep rolling until your dough is about the thickness of a semi-dull pencil or the prong of a fork. You don't want it paper thin unless you like crispy crackers that are more like chips. That looks perfect. To cut our squares, I use a pizza cutter. I like to get some of the rounded edges off first and then cut into squares. And you can see the shreds of cheese in the dough. This cheese will actually melt when it bakes, and it creates little pockets of air that help make our crackers crunchy. To give that iconic hole in the center, I use a wooden skewer, but a chopstick works too. You can sprinkle your crackers with a little bit of flaked salt just to make it look more like a Cheez-it, but we're gonna bake these in a 250-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes. If you rolled out your dough super thin, it's not gonna take as long to cook, but you wanna make sure you pull them out before they start to get golden brown, because as they cool, they're actually gonna turn into an ugly kind of orangey brown color rather than that vibrant orange color like a Cheez-it should be. Let these cool for several minutes because they're gonna continue to harden. You know what would go perfect with these crunchy Cheez-its? A grilled cheese sandwich, and I show you how to make one without using store-bought bread and in under 10 minutes. Just click right here to see how.